What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 42. The rest of the way to the seat of Try she spent moving her body every hour, leaving it under a linen tent during the day and running at night. She only slept in her real dreams fitfully and for a few hours at a time, despite how weary she was. Nightmares haunted her, and she was on a mission. She traveled a long time, days running into each other again, before she found herself looking over a ledge. The cliff was so deep, deep as a valley between mountains, but at the bottom the desert abruptly came to a halt about a mile after the plateau, and started turning into a swamp. Between the swamp and ledge for that mile there was a city. The houses were all made on top of each other, all seemingly out of clay, and they even climbed the face of the cliff. Their roofs were flat and had little chairs and tables or gardens on them, and some had people walking around on them. In the center of the city was a large dome, made again from the clay, and with a very long row of people before it. Somehow she was sure that was where she had to go. She moved her body to directly in front of it and woke up. She found herself next to huge earthen doors, and there were spears at her throat. The men holding the weapons up to her had a dome and a spear on their clan marks. She lifted her head proudly, knowing they could see her marks, but they did not lower their spears. "I am the daughter of Ties, of the Black Weapon clan, and I have come to see the Try." They still stood, watching her like she was a serpent. She looked at them and saw that she was near She looked from them and saw that she was near the long line of people, all holding gifts and all facing the dome. None looked at her. "You may not cut the line for any name." Lil saw a guard pulling his spear back from her neck, and he looked grimly at her. She understood. They thought she had tried to use some trick, like the Nightblade clan had. "I apologize. That was not my intention. I will go to the end." The spears were all returned to each soldier's side. She got up and they escorted her to the back of the line. The end was almost out of the city, it was so long. "This might take the whole day," Lil muttered to herself as the guards returned to their post at the head of the line. It took 3 days for the line to move forward to where she could see the spot she had been caught by the guards. Some hours the line moved quickly, but most it moved slowly. No one left their spot. No one went at night to sleep in an inn or at their homes. Everyone stayed. At night they all pitched tiny one-person tents to rest in. Lil made herself one and hoped no one noticed she hadn't had one before. No one talked in the line. No one looked left or right. All waited patiently for their turn to see the Try. Lil was getting so bored and irritated. She wasn't used to having to wait around like this for nothing, and it forced her to think, to remember, to feel things she had been avoiding. There was no way to stop it. She tried to hide tears when she thought of Ties and Henry, and Demeen and Munchin and Ashen, but no one looked at her, no one noticed her suffering. She was sullen with depression, her skin red with burns, and she could not hide from the sun. She felt stir-crazy, but if she left the line she would have to start all over again from the end. Time moved so slowly each day, dragging on for what felt forever, while she stood and sweat and cried. The 3rd day, and finally she was allowed to step into the dome. At first she sighed with relief that the wait was over and the sun off her back, but once she saw the huge room and the 3 within, she gulped hard. The inside of the dome was so vastly hollow, it made her feel insignificant and small. She forced her feet forward. Inside there were 3 high chairs. Each person on them had gray in their hair, and the 2 women actually both had the same white tinting in their sand-colored tresses. They seemed so ancient and wise that she felt the same pressure she had felt before the power. They all had the power's dignity and age and strength. She trembled before them. She bowed how she had for the power, not knowing what else to do, and waited for someone to say she could rise. She finally did so, simply because her back ached, and found them all watching her patiently. I am Lil, the little brave one of the Black Weapon clan, the daughter of Ties and second in line to the throne of Andrus. I want to discuss changing a law, if that's all right." One of the women started to chuckle. She was in the middle and was wearing a yellow smock bearing a tree on it. Gerzera. The woman to her left wore a blue smock with stars on it, and the man to her right wore red with daggers. Jaslexion and Xerxes. The central woman said, "You do not know our ways. You were raised in the Greenlander fashion, yet you still come here. Has anyone ever mentioned you are well named?" Lil almost laughed and said, "Several people have mentioned it, actually. I'm sorry if I've broken traditions or anything. It wasn't on purpose." They all three nodded, understanding. Gerzera spoke again, saying, "When one comes before the seat of Tri, they enter to fall on their face and offer a gift which represents why they have come. They then announce the reason, and they never speak of their clan, only their own name. One's clan should not be judged harshly for one person's mistakes." "Oh, I don't have a gift, but I can make one. Just a moment." She lay down and realized she didn't know what gift to give. She considered for a moment, then made a little clay statue of two women embracing. She woke up, looked up to offer it, and felt herself slapped hard. "You are not a wild one! You must not do that! Who taught you this talent? Who?" Blaxian and Trixian's grandmother stood over her, furious. Lil snapped her jaw back into place and felt stubbornness overriding her awe of these people. "A friend! And I know I'm not a wild one, and who cares? I make things just fine. I was told not to attack spirits or to try to enter dreams. No one ever said I couldn't make things." Xerxes started laughing. "Oh, leave the girl be for now. She has waited her due time. Let her make her petition about the law. You can deal with her wilder training later," said Gezira, smiling a little herself. "Oh, I will." The woman returned to her seat and glared at Lil. Gulping, she held up the little statue to them. Frowns came to all three faces.